Hello guys, so in today's video we will learn about conditional statements, which is how computers make decisions. And we will do this in Python. I have a very similar video that I've done in Java as well, so if you guys are interested in that, you can check that out. Concepts are exactly the same with just slightly different syntax. Alright, so let's dive straight into this. Alright, so let's start with something very simple and basic. Let's say we have two numbers, num1, let's set it to 5, and num2, let's set it to 10. Now we want to say, okay, if num2 is bigger, then, print out, let's say I'm bigger. Now, if num1 is bigger, say num1 is bigger, okay? So the computer doesn't know. We need to tell it. We need to check which one is bigger or not. So the way we do that is with a conditional statement called if. So with if, we're comparing these two numbers. So we can say, if num1 is greater than num2, print out num1 is bigger. But what if num2 is bigger? Else, we can use else. Else, otherwise, we know that num2 will be bigger. Okay, because if num1 is not bigger, then we know, obviously, the other number should be bigger. All right, so let's run this. There you go. So in this case, we say, okay, is 5 greater than 10? It's not. So skip this statement and go into else. All right. Now, what if the numbers are exactly the same? Let's see what happens. Num2 is bigger. Well, no, it's not. They're both the same thing. They're both the same values, okay? They're both equal to each other. So one way we can do it is we can write an else if, okay? Elif, all right? And we can say if num2, if num2 is greater than num1, let's say num1, then write num2 is bigger. Else, let's see, else print both num are equal. Okay, so let's run this. There you go. Both numbers are equal to each other. Why? First, it checked, okay, is num1, they're both 10, right? Is 10 greater than 10? It's not. Else if it's the second 10, num2 10 bigger than the first 10 of num1? It's not. Okay, then go to this statement. So else will always execute in this regards, okay? So both numbers are equal. What if, let's say, this is smaller. Num1 is bigger and num2 is smaller. All right, let's run this. Num1 is bigger, all right? What if num2 is bigger? 15. You got num2 is bigger, all right? So pretty straightforward, not too bad. Okay, so let's do another example. Let's say we want to check if a number is even or odd, okay? So let's take in maybe an input from a user. Okay, so let's say int num, okay, int num is equal to, we are going to, so one way we can take in an input from a user is via input, okay? So input, we can say enter number, all right? Enter number. And we will wrap that around an int. Because why? Because the number that you enter is always in a string, so we need to convert that to an int. So this is, we're casting it to an int. Now, let's see. Let's write the statement. Now we can say if, now to check, let's do the first case. If the number is even, if even, okay? If even, all right? So one way we could do it is we will see if that number is divisible by 2. So to do that, we use this mod function, which is this percent sign. So if num mod 2 is equal 0, all right? This means if that number is divisible by 2, then it's not going to have any remainder left. The remainder will be 0, all right? Then we know that number is odd, okay? The number is even, okay? Otherwise, else number is odd. Number is odd. Let's run this. I'm going to comment this out. Actually, let me just delete this. Let's check. Let's run this. Okay, enter number. Let's say we enter 5. 5 should be odd. Number is odd. Let's run it again. We can say number 2. That's even. Let's run it maybe one more time quickly. Let's say we enter 1. That should be odd as well. All right, let's do something bigger. Let's say we do 120. That should be even. There you go. So this is another example of using if else. Okay, so let's do an example of when to use ifs versus if else. All right, using bunch of if versus if else. So let's do an example of that. Let me copy this and paste there, and let me comment this out. All right. So let's say we are going to take in an age. All right, let's do the first scenario of using bunch of ifs. So if age is, let's say, greater than 55, print old age. Let's say the person is old, it's getting older. If I have a small bug there. If age is greater than 40, that's middle age. And if age is greater than 18, that is young age. Okay. Let's clean this up. All right. So let's run this. Enter a number. Let's say we do 45. All right. 45, sorry. So we got two ages, middle age and young age. Why? Because this expression evaluated to true, and so did this. So it's running each of these if statements independently. It's first checking this if statement, then it goes and check this. But what if we only want, since this is the same code where we're checking ages, what if we wrap this around if else? That's going to be a better way to do this. So let's do that and see what happens. So if age is greater than 55, print old age. All right. Else if age is greater than 40, print middle age. And the last scenario is it's going to be else. If you're less than 40, then you are young. Okay. Let's say that's young age. So let's run this and let's divide this up for ease of reading. Okay. So let's do the same thing, 45. So you can see on the first, using bunch of ifs, we got middle and young age. But in the second one, we only got up to middle age. Why? So the way it works is it first checks this if statement. If this is false, then it jumps to the next if statement block, the else if. If this evaluates to true, then it doesn't execute the else statement. It exits it out. All right. So this is one of the difference between using if and if else. Okay, so let's go to a different topic of logical and versus logical or. How to use them and what's the difference between them. So let me comment this out. And let me say, instead of age, we'll do number. We'll take in a number input. And let's say, what if we have a scenario where we want to check a number must be even and it should be greater than 20. So let's do that. So number mod 2 is equal to 0 and number must be greater than 20. If this is true, then we want to add them up. So num plus equals number. So this is the same thing as me writing it as num is equal to num plus num. That's a short way of writing it. Okay. And we want to print that number out. Let's run this. So now if I enter, let's say 14, okay, it's not going to go inside this if block. Why? Well, okay, so 14 is an even number, so this evaluated to true. But 14 is not greater than 20, so this evaluated to false. We're checking, hey, both of this should evaluate to true with the and. So this should evaluate to true and this, both of them, in order for us to go inside this if block. All right, so let's do another one. Let's do 25. It's not going to go inside the if statement. Why? Well, 25 is greater than 20, so this evaluated to true. But 25 is an odd number. It's not even. So this evaluated to false, which is why it did not go inside this loop. This if statement block. So let's say we have 50. All right, now it's going to go inside the loop or the if statement block. 50 is an even number and 50 is greater than 20. Okay, so we can add them up. So 50 plus 50 is 100, which is how we got 100. It went inside the block. Now let's just replace this with an OR. Okay, let's do an OR. So now let's run this again. So let's say I do 14. Now this time it will go inside the block. Why? Because this evaluated to true. 14 is an even number. However, 14 is not greater than 20, but we don't care. We said, okay, either of this should evaluate to true, not both of them, either of them. So let's do another one. Let's run this. Let's say if I do 25, all right, it's going to go inside the if block. Why? Well, 25 is greater than 20. Even though it's an odd number, 25 is not even. So this is false, this is true. So in this case, we went inside the block. And what if we do, let's say 50, it will still go inside because both of them evaluate to true. So with an OR, one of the statements have to evaluate to true, okay? With an AND, both of these should evaluate to true for us to go inside the block. We can use another number, and we can use a bunch of them. So we can say, or let's say we have this variable, let's say, Boolean flag is false. Or let's say actually flag is true. True. Or flag is equal to true. Okay. Let's do this. So maybe we can say, you know what? Let's try this. Okay. So let's run this. Now let's say if we enter 50, it's going to go inside the loop. Let's do 3. It will go inside the loop. Why? So 3 is odd, so this is false, and 3 is less than 20. So this whole thing is false. None of these are true. However, with this OR statement, we're saying, you know what? Either this has to be true or this has to be true. So in this case, it went inside the loop. Let's say if I replace this with OR and we say flag must equal false. Let's run this. So if I do, let's say, I don't know, 50. It's going to go inside the loop or inside the statement. Even though flag is false, but both of these evaluated to true. Let's do one more. Let's say we do 14. Okay. It's going to go inside this if statement. This evaluated to true. This was false. This evaluated to false. And so did this. But we said, any of these statements should evaluate to true. So this is the difference between logical and logical OR. So let's go over one last one, logical not. Which is basically saying if something evaluates to false, all right? Whether it's not true or not false, okay? So let's, use the same example. We are going to copy this. Let me comment that out. And actually, let's do maybe this. So instead of equals 0, we can say not. So this symbol denotes to a not, okay, when we're comparing numbers, okay? So basically we're saying if number is not even, so basically it's odd. That's pretty much what we're saying here. Number is not even, that means if it's not even, the opposite of that is an odd. If it's basically odd, or if it's greater than 20, then go inside this statement. So let's run this. So we can do 3. It's going to go inside the statement. Why? Because 3 is not even. It's not greater than 20. So this evaluated to true, even though this was false. All right. Actually, let's clean it up even better. So let's run this again. Let's say we do 10. 10 is even, so it's not going to go inside the statement. Let's do 13. 13 will go because 13 is odd. All right, so not. So let's do another example. Let's say we use a Boolean this time. So with a Boolean, that is true. Okay. So let's replace this with a Boolean. So let's say if flag. Now with the Boolean, we use something called this, if flag, if not flag. All right. So basically what we're saying here is if flag is not true. So if flag is basically false, all right, then go inside this statement. So when we run this, it's not going to go inside the statement. Why? Because flag is true. Now, if you set it to false, this will go inside the statement. There you go. It went inside the statement. Why? Because flag was set to false. So this is called basically a not, okay, a logical not. Okay, so the last thing I want to go over is switch statements. Now, starting from Python 3.10, Python 3.10 basically introduced switch statement. Before that, there was no switch statement. We had to use a bunch of if and else if blocks, which can get messy. It can be hard to read. With switch statements, it's a lot easier to read and it's a lot more cleaner code. So let's see how to do that in Python. So let's do the first one. Let's see how the code will look like if you do a bunch of if else. So let's try that. So while true, we're going to check the months, okay? We're going to take in a month input, right? Which will be in enter month and int. So for example, if you enter 1, that should return January. If you enter month 2, it should return February, okay? That's what we're trying to do. If month, now let's say if you want to exit out the block, if someone enters -1, you can say break. Now, I'm going to have a separate video on break statements and continue. So basically what break means is break this while loop. So it's going to exit out of this while loop when we use break. All right. So let's say if month is equal to 1, print Jan. Else if month is equal to 2, print Feb. Let's go up to maybe like 6 months. Let's copy this. Else March, April, May, June. All right, so let's do this. 3, 4. And else. Well, say we only have 6 months within our year. Okay, so else invalid month. So let's say I enter 1. It printed Jan. Let's say I enter 6. It printed June. So over here, what's happening is it's going to first evaluate this if statement. If we enter 1, it's going to go there and stop. Now, what if we enter 6? So it's going to check each of this if statement in the first. So it's going to check this, then this, and so on until it reaches all the way up to here, until it gets to 6. Then it will print June. So we can see, if this gets longer, it's going to be a little bit harder to read. What if we have a lot of code inside here, and the performance could be a little bit slower as well. So starting from Python 3.10, they introduced a switch statement, which is basically uses pattern matching. Okay, so let's replace this with that. So I'm going to comment this out, and we are going to use that. So with this, we use match, and we take in the variable month. So we're trying to match the month, match month, and we have this case. So case 1, when a user enters, month will be 1, then print basically Jan. And if it's case 2, print Feb. And let's copy this a couple of times. And we have our default case as well. So to do that, we do this. All right. This means this is a default case. So invalid month. All right. Let's run this. Actually, let's exit this out. So if I do -1, it's going to exit that out. So let's run this. So if I do 1, it's going to print Jan. If I do 6, it's going to print out June. If I do 4, 5, 2, and let's exit this out. So this is a lot cleaner and easier to read, the switch statements. And it's usually recommended if you have, let's say, more than 5 or 6 else if blocks, then try switching to this. So this is the last thing I wanted to go over, the switch statements. All right, so hopefully you guys got a better understanding of conditional statements. So we went over a couple of them. We went over the if statements, the difference between when to use if versus if else. We went over logical and, logical or, and logical not as well. And at the end, we went over switch statements, or in this case, pattern matching in Python, which is introduced in Python 3.10. So I have another video just like this that I've done in Java as well. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys can.